Year-end fatigue is a feeling of extreme weariness, tiredness, or lack of energy that can negatively affect how you well execute your duties, how you perform at work, and how you experience your day-to-day life. Now, of course, to unpack this, I am joined by General Practitioner Dr. Nelson Makemba. Doctor, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening too, and thank you for having me.
Doctor, you know, nowadays at this very point in time, towards the end of the year, of course, you greet somebody, you hear them saying, "Oh no, I'm tired," or they just, you know, the energy is just not there.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what the causes of year-end fatigue is?
Yeah, what tend to generally happen, because you have had the whole year behind you, people tend to be really fatigued this time of the year, but also there are certain reasons that might contribute to why people are often fatigued. If you look at lifestyle, for instance, oftentimes people don't really have proper sleeping patterns for themselves. Today they go to bed at 8, the next day they go to bed at 10, the other day they go to bed past midnight. So, you know, not having a proper sleeping pattern might actually contribute to you being fatigued because you are not, resting very well. Right. And then if you do take stimulants, people that maybe, let's say, they smoke and they do smoke before they go to bed, smoking can be a stimulant, so it quite keep them up for a night, so they only get to doze off, in the early morning hour when they're supposed to be getting up and getting ready for the day. Right. If you drink coffee, for instance, it's also a stimulant. People who use recreational drugs and alcohol consumption. Generally, sleeping disorder as well, just insomnia, somebody that just can't sleep, maybe there's an insomnia going on. Yeah. People that work shifts, like maybe police officers, security guards, healthcare provider like ourselves. Sometimes you find yourself, being on call at night and working throughout the whole night, and the next day you're fatigued and you're feeling tired. There are also some medical conditions that might be lingering in the background as to why somebody is fatigued. Somebody might have anemia, kidney problem, a heart failure. They might have cancer. They might have thyroid problems. These are the kind of things that actually tend to happen. Even some, cases of type 1 diabetes might also be associated with, difficulty with sleeping. And then when you don't sleep properly, you wake up the next day, you are fatigued and you are very tired. And also just generally at this time of the year, people are about to knock off, there's a lot of to do, on the list, people are trying to get things done so that by the time they go on to holidays, things are done. So all of that can actually contribute to somebody feeling fatigued this time of the year.
Very well.
Yeah.
And how do you differentiate between normal fatigue and chronic fatigue syndrome?
Yeah, normal fatigue will then probably be what we often refer to as an acute type of a fatigue. Now, with that kind, what tends to happen really is that if you do take some time off to rest, you might feel refreshed, and then the fatigue goes away. Right. Or if there's a causative, disease and illness has been identified to be the reason why you're fatigued, if it's managed promptly, you might regain your strength and then you're up and about. But with chronic fatigue syndrome, even having rested, that fatigue sort of lingers on. It limits your physical and social activities. So when it's a chronic fatigue syndrome, even sometimes taking off and just, taking some time out and resting might not necessarily take away the fatigue, and that becomes a chronic fatigue syndrome type of a presentation.
Interesting. And I spoke, of course, about extreme weariness, tiredness, and lack of energy being some of the symptoms. Can you perhaps break them a bit down and maybe just give us more other symptoms that comes with, year-end fatigue? Yeah,
when you got some year-end fatigue, you're low on energy, you're probably not so motivated. The activities that you sort of generally, naturally enjoy doing, you might not find them fun when you're fatigued. Yeah. When you're fatigued, you become nervous, anxious, and irritable. When you're at work, everything seems to be like a noise. You're just tired. You don't want to be there. So you might actually, become impatient. You might be feeling boredom all the time. These are the type of presentation, and lack of focusing or concentration, particularly with mental fatigue. You might have memory problem, not able to, sort of fulfill your daily activities, being forgetful. These are some of the kind of presentation, and just being tired during the day. You got muscle ache, body ache, your eyes look tired, your legs are tired, your whole body is tired. The sort of description that we often use most of the time. You look zoned out. You're there physically, but it's like you're not there at all. That kind of presentation.
All right. Could we possibly say that this fatigue or tiredness could possibly have an impact on one's mental health?
Yeah, it can have an impact on your mental health, because then if you're fatigued and you are not able to focus, concentrate, and carry out your daily activities, particularly in your work environment. Right. You might be getting a lot of pressure from your, superiors that you are not performing and you are not bringing your end to the table. That might tip you over. You can become depressed as well. Because now you are at work, you're really tired, you're trying your best, and maybe, your colleagues might not be necessarily seeing that you're fatigued, and the pressure is sort of mounting up on you. That can sort of, push you over into becoming depressed, and anxiety can kick in as well.
Wow. Yeah. And talking about the treatment options, what other treatment options are there for people to actually, go and get treatment for fatigue?
We probably first would like to always look at, sort of lifestyle modifications, exercising, eating a healthy diet, creating those, sleeping patterns for yourself. With sleeping patterns, I would, for instance, if you tend to go to bed at a particular time, yeah, and get up at a particular time. For example, if you go to bed every night at 10 o'clock, which is 2200 hours, and maybe you're out of bed by 5:30. If you sort of follow that patterns, your body sort of get used to the routine. Come 2200 hours, you just shut down. It's bedtime. Come 5:30 in the morning, you are up already. If it becomes routine, you don't even need an alarm to wake you up. Now, if you create a sort of a healthy sleeping pattern for yourself like that, that might be helpful as well. Just taking away, alcohol consumption, particularly at night, making sure that you're not taking stimulants like coffee, you're not smoking, and, advisably, we say that eat at least 2 hours before bedtime. Why? Because food tend to stay about 2 hours in the stomach before they move to the intestines. You sort of don't end up getting that regurgitation when you lie down. That can sort of help you. Exercising, with exercise, really, you release those endorphins, feel good hormones, you improve your confidence, with the endorphins released, that also can improve your sleeping pattern as well. And obviously making sure that when you go to bed, the lights are down, there are no, sort of disturbing, lights, in the background. I always encourage my patients, the bedroom is not for television. Make sure you don't put a television in your bedroom. Keep it in a sitting room where you can watch, and when you switch it off, you go to bed. Bed is for sleeping. And just creating that, sort of peaceful environment for yourself, with the quietness and the tranquility. That can help. And obviously, having done that, if there is no improvement to your sleep, right, then, probably to visit, your healthcare practitioner, healthcare provider, or doctor, that might run some few tests just to making sure that there are no other underlying medical illness in the background that could be the reason why you're not sleeping. And if so, and if they identify, then they can be managed properly.
All right, very well. You gave some very good advice there. I think when you spoke about, limiting alcohol, all sorts of things that people take in. But how do you advise, patients to manage their work-life balance now, having to understand that work is the biggest contributor to fatigue?
I always tell my patients, plan ahead, making sure that your day is planned properly. It's best always to tackle the difficult tasks first when you get into the office, because you are still energetic, so that toward the end of the day when you're really tired, then you're only having to deal with simple tasks, I always tell my patients, don't let your mouth overload your back, so set boundaries. If you are given a responsibility within, your expectations, at your workplace, don't take on more than you're able to deliver, set the healthy boundary for yourself to say, look, if today I'm going to do A, B, and C, if somebody comes along the journey in the day and say, can we add on this to your sort of activities for the day, you can, respectfully say, unless we can maybe push that to tomorrow, my diary is already full. Take time off, I know that sometimes we tend to, just keep on pushing and pushing, just, taking time off, just going away from your workplace, resting it out and coming back rejuvenated. That also might actually, be helpful in terms of, getting that energy going again. Just being, mindful of, the environment that you are working in, and making sure that, everything is really done properly, such that, you don't get home and realize, look, I forgot I should have done A, B, and C, because you haven't planned properly. So really, if you plan and you make sure that you execute the plan, as you have planned it, and not allowing distractions in between, that might actually help you balance the situation out.
Lastly, Doctor, before I let you go, I want to talk about sleeping pills. I mean, during this very time, this is a time you find most, people trying to buy sleeping pills to use before going to bed. Would you recommend that, and what do you think are the effects of this?
Look, the sleeping tablets has their place when properly and rightfully used within the right framework and the context is right. oftentimes, you know, from us, you know, the medical personals, we probably advise, you know, the use of sleeping tablets for a shorter duration,
right,
meaning maybe 5 up at most 7 days. And the idea really is if you have been on sleeping tablets for at least 7 days and you're taking one before you go to bed and you're sort of sleeping very well, so hopefully by the end of the 7 days, then your body has sort of, you know, kicked into that, you know, routine, you know, and then you are able to sleep off, you know, by yourself. The reason being really because if you use the sleeping tablet rather for a very extended period of time, there is an element of dependency to it. So we don't want to create a nation where people are just dependent on sleeping tablets. Yeah, so if really there is a concern and somebody is really finding it difficult to sleep, yes, we might prescribe sleeping tablets, but by far most of us will probably give it for a shorter course, you know. And then once, you know, the sleeping has been restored, hopefully the person will then be able to continue to sleep by themselves. Yeah. Because if they continue using the sleeping tablet, they might get addicted to them and they will not be able to sleep without them. And that's not a good thing for them.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you so much for making the time to talk to us, and I wish you all the best. Yeah.
It's always a pleasure being here. Thank you for having me.
All right. That's Dr. Makemba talking to us about year-end fatigue. The Daily Roundup takes a short break.